Welcome to Long Brothers Reviews, the show where sibling rivalry meets the cinema as two brothers rate and debate movies past, present, and coming soon. That's my brother Mike.
And that's my brother Todd. And today's film is Ex-Machina, starring Domhnall Gleeson, whom you might know from one of the Harry Potter pictures, and Unbroken, and Oscar Isaac, whom you do not know, directed by Alex Garland, whom you will get to know in the coming years.
This week's order was decided by the crossing guard down the street at the elementary school in my neighborhood. So, Mike, you're up first.
Ex-Machina was written and directed by Alex Garland, who also wrote two of the best sci-fi pictures of the last 15 years, 28 Days Later, and the little scene Sunshine, both by Danny Boyle. In this picture, a genius computer designer creates a machine that simulates a real person. Then he brings in a perfect stranger to see if his creation can pass for human. There are big ideas in this picture, but they're not really explored. This movie is not as insightful as some of the reviews might lead you to think. Garland did better with a few simple ideas explored in mind-bending depth in Sunshine. See that. Those pictures, along with 28 Days Later, those pictures showed an investigation of what life is like if you believe ideas to be true, instead of just casually mentioning them and moving along. Nevertheless, this is better than we usually get, especially this year. So if you're okay with a clever story, you don't need action, I say go see this one.
Well, you know, I had only seen a few previews for Ex Machina before actually seeing the film, but the previews I had seen implied that this was kind of one of those films where all hell breaks loose when the machines turn on their creators. And if you go into this thinking that's what you're going to get, well, prepare yourself because you're going to be disappointed. The film has very little action, if any, at all, and instead focuses on the philosophical questions of what it means to be human. Think of it as a cross between Frankenstein and the old 70s classic Westworld. Now, that does not make it a bad film by any stretch of the imagination, but it does make the producers a little bit guilty of bait and switch, in my opinion. Ultimately, this is an interesting film. It has a very satisfying ending, but the pace is so slow that you're going to come out of this surprised that it was only an hour and 50 minutes, because it feels like 2.5 at least. So I am saying see this, but know what you're getting into before you buy your ticket.
Well, it's a good picture. It's just not what it could be. And when you see the kinds of things that Alex Garland has been involved with before, you expect a little bit more depth here. Perhaps without Danny Boyle at his hip, he doesn't get quite where he needs to be.
I liked Oscar Isaac in this as Nathan. I liked him in inside Llewellyn Davis, even though the film itself is weak. I thought his performance in that was very good. And I liked him in this. He's basically one of these guys who's, genius at the age of 13. He writes this fiction, he writes what is, in essence, Google, though they, of course, don't call it Google in the movie, at the age of 13, and he goes on to be a genius. And I liked his performance in this, and I liked some of the visual effects in this, the visual effects of Ava, who is the machine that they're interacting with throughout the film.
Oscar Isaac's performance in this is something to study. Acting is not what I believed it was for a long time. For many years, I thought, well, as long as you can memorize the lines, spill them out, you're fine. Oscar Isaac takes these lines and becomes that person. He chooses to be emphatic and stubborn and mean with the way he says them, and he pulls back at moments where you see that there's another side to him. It's a master class in how this stuff is done. Oscar Isaac is just a superstar in this, just like he was in A Most Violent Year toward the end of 2014. A great picture no one saw. Oscar Isaac is just this powerhouse actor that we don't see enough of, but hopefully we will.
And there's even a scene in there where he's in a debate with Caleb, the character he's invited into his house, and all of a sudden he flips on the music and it turns into a 70s dance party. The guy can even dance.
It's not just a trick to suddenly change, to make a change in tone where they're having a rather intense argument, and then suddenly it becomes a dance. And it's not, again, what it's not is what it is. It's not a moment of, now it's Saturday Night Fever. No, it's someone naturally carrying the story forward by doing something entirely out of character, seemingly. There are several touches in here like this. It's just a shame the whole thing doesn't fly better. it's worth mentioning here that if you like female nudity, you should get in line right now for this robot picture.
Yeah, and that's regardless. I mean, if you have a particular ethnicity you prefer, you're going to get a little bit of everything there. So, whatever, turns your crank. I alluded to this earlier. The film moves at a very slow pace. And when the film, you're sitting there watching it, and then you get to what you think is the ending, and I'm thinking, okay, well, I'll get up and oh no, it's still going. It keeps going and went right after it should have ended.
Yes, it goes on for no reason.
Yes, it just goes again, and I'm like, what else can happen? We've got you. That was the ending. What we just saw in the very final shot. That should have been bam. Here's the credits. Throw your trash away on the way out.
Where it should have ended is that point right there. And when you see this picture, you're going to go, yes, that's the ending. That's more ambiguous. It's more exciting. And it's more suggestive. It sends you, not in a dirty way, suggestive, although it sends you out of the theater going, oh, yeah.
Did not see that coming.
Yeah. One more thing. The house he's in is so big. He lives on a ranch, basically, that appears to be most of Alaska. And this house is huge. I kept wondering, who dusts?
He's got a ton of money. He has this high-tech, incredible house. But his house is plagued by these power outages. They just pop about 30 seconds. Power goes out. Generator kicks on. Lasts about 30 seconds. Everything turns red. For some reason, all the lights turn red. And then everything comes back to normal. After the first one happens, those of us who paid our money to see this film have a pretty good idea of what's causing the power outages. Mr. Smartest Guy in the World, who invented Blue Book, which is their version of Google, he doesn't figure it out for another hour and a half. But we figured it out like the first time it happened. Like, oh, well, there you go. Here's the problem right here.
And he lives out here by himself, by the way. Now, yeah. Anyone who's ever owned a house or even rented an apartment will go, how in the hell does he keep this place up by himself? And he runs the power device apparently too. Just think, in addition to my serious computer work, I sweep and dust on top of all that. It's there's some goofy ideas there.
That's it for this episode. Be sure and check us out on Facebook and Twitter to find out more and to ask us questions about your favorite films.
So until next time, that is my brother, Todd.
And that's my brother, Mike, saying, we're bigger than U.S. Steel.